minus 64 degrees Celsius, minus 84 Fahrenheit. At such a temperature, ordinary life is impossible. Water freezes instantly. Metal becomes brittle as glass. Rubber cracks. Diesel fuel turns to jelly. Unprotected skin gets frostbitten in 30 seconds. Breath crystallizes in the air with a distinctive tinkling that locals call the whisper of stars. But for the Kuvak family, living in the tiny settlement of Arctic Bay in northern Canada, this is an ordinary winter day. A day when you need to go out hunting because the meat in the freezer is running out. A day when you need to keep the house warm, or the family will freeze. A day when survival depends on knowledge accumulated over 4,000 years of living in the most inhospitable place on the planet. 4 in the morning. The polar night envelops the settlement in absolute darkness that will last another 2 months until the sun returns. The only light comes from the windows of 23 houses scattered along the frozen shore. Inside one of them, a small wooden structure measuring 6 by 8 meters, Thomas Kuvak wakes up. He is 46 years old, the head of a family of 7. His wife, Anna, 4 children aged 8 to 19, and his mother, Elizabeth, who is 78. The first thing Thomas does, without opening his eyes, is listen. He listens to the sound of the stove in the corner of the room, the steady hum of the burner running on kerosene. As long as the stove is working, the house is warm. The family is safe. If he suddenly hears silence, it means the kerosene has run out or the burner has gone out, and the temperature in the house will begin to drop at a rate of 5 degrees per hour. In 3 hours, it will be minus 40 inside, and the family will be in mortal danger. But the stove is working. Thomas opens his eyes and sees the familiar sight. Condensation on the inside of the windows has turned into a thick layer of frost. Patterns of ice cover the glass completely. Nothing is visible outside. This is normal with such a temperature difference, he explains, noticing my surprised look. Outside it is minus 64, inside plus 18, a difference of 82 degrees. Moisture from the air freezes on the coldest surface, the window panes. He gets out of bed, dressed in thick fleece pajamas and woolen socks. Even inside the house you cannot walk around undressed. It is too cold. He goes to the stove, checks the kerosene level in the tank. Enough for 2 more days, he says, making a note in his notebook. Kerosene is delivered once a month by snowmobile from the neighboring settlement, 40 kilometers across the ice. It costs 120 rubles per liter, and we burn 20 liters a day. That is 2,400 rubles per day, just for heating. 72,000 a month, on a salary of 35,000. That is why we economize however we can, he continues. We heat only one room where everyone sleeps together. The other 2 rooms are closed off. The temperature there is minus 20, and we use them as a freezer for meat. The windows are covered with 3 layers of plastic film. The cracks are stuffed with rags. The door is lined with reindeer hides on the inside. Every crack means heat loss, extra kerosene, money. But even with such economy, the kerosene does not last the whole winter. That is why there is a second stove, a small iron one, in the corner. It runs on seal blubber, which Thomas obtains himself while hunting. The blubber is cut into cubes, placed in a metal bowl over the fire, melts, burns, and gives off heat. The smell is distinctive, strong, oily, but you get used to it. One seal yields 30 kilograms of blubber. That is a week of heating. 5 seals for the winter, and you need half as much kerosene. Anna is already in the kitchen, brewing morning tea on the kerosene burner. There is no gas in the settlement. Electricity is available only 3 hours a day, from 6 to 9 in the evening when the diesel generator is turned on. So cooking is done only with kerosene or blubber. She pours boiling water into a large thermos and brews strong black tea with sugar. With the tea, there is dried caribou meat,
reindeer sliced into thin strips, fried fish, Arctic char caught in summer and frozen, pieces of muktuk, whale blubber with skin left over from the autumn hunt. This is a hunter's breakfast, Thomas explains, pouring tea into a large mug. Lots of protein, lots of fat, lots of calories. Today we will go check the fox traps, then go out on the ice to see if there are any seals. We will be outside 8 to 10 hours.
You need energy so you do not freeze. One breakfast like this is 3,000 calories, half the daily requirement. But in the cold, the body burns 6,000 calories a day just to maintain its temperature. The children wake up one by one, crawling out from under thick blankets of reindeer fur. The eldest daughter, Sarah, 19 years old, immediately goes to help her mother with breakfast. The sons, Johnny, 16, and Peter, 13, begin dressing to go outside. They will go hunting with their father. The youngest, Louise, 8 years old, stays home with her mother and grandmother and will help with household chores. The process of dressing to go out at -64 is a whole science that children learn from the age of 3. The first layer is thermal underwear made of synthetic fabric, fitting tightly to the body, wicking away moisture. The second layer is a woolen shirt and trousers, creating an air pocket. The third layer is a fleece sweater and pants for additional warmth. The fourth layer is a traditional parka made of caribou, reindeer, with the fur facing inward. The parka is life, says Thomas, putting on his own, worn but sturdy. My mother sewed it 30 years ago, and it still serves. Caribou hide is ideal for the Arctic. The hairs of the fur are hollow inside, filled with air, creating better insulation than any synthetic material. One parka replaces 3 down jackets. Plus it breathes, lets moisture out, and does not let you sweat. Over the parka goes a windproof jacket made of dense fabric, a modern one, bought in the city 2 years ago. Wind is the main enemy in the cold, explains Johnny, zipping up. At -64 without wind, you can work for an hour if you are dressed properly. But if a wind of 10 meters per second picks up, the temperature feels like -80, and you will freeze in 15 minutes. On the feet go several layers of socks. Thin synthetic ones, thick woolen ones, fur liners made of rabbit. Then kamiks, traditional boots made of sealskin with fur inside and soles of walrus hide. Over those, gaiters of reindeer hide with the fur facing outward, reaching to the knees. On the hands, thin gloves of chamois leather, then thick mittens of fur, then outer mitts of sealskin. In all, getting dressed takes 20 minutes. The face is protected by a scarf wound so that only the eyes are exposed. But even the eyes need protection. The cornea can get frostbitten from the cold wind. Thomas puts on special goggles with side shields, like those worn by downhill skiers. In the past, the Inuit made snow goggles from bone with narrow slits. Now we buy modern ones, but the principle is the same. Finally, everyone is ready. Thomas checks the equipment one last time. A .22 caliber rifle for foxes, ammunition, a knife, rope, traps, a thermos of hot tea, an emergency supply of matches in a waterproof container, a piece of tarpaulin for shelter, signal flares in case we get lost or run into trouble. Mobile phone service does not work here. Only the village elder has a satellite phone. If something happens on the hunt, there is nowhere to expect help from. So always prepare for the worst. Thomas repeats the rule his father taught him. Always take more than you think you will need. Extra matches, extra food, extra clothing. The extra can save your life. We open the door and the cold rushes into the house in a wave, visible, tangible. The air is so cold that it is denser, heavier, literally pushing the warm air out of the room. The temperature in the entryway drops 10 degrees in seconds. We quickly step out and close the door so as not to chill the house. Outside, the darkness is absolute. starless. The moon is hidden by clouds. Only the light of headlamps carves circles about 10 meters in diameter out of the darkness. The cold strikes instantly, penetrating through all layers of clothing, finding every gap. The first breath sears the lungs from inside, making you cough. You need to breathe slowly, through the nose, warming the air, Thomas instructs. The sounds are strange, distorted by the frost. Footsteps on the snow do not crunch but ring. The snow at this temperature is hard as stone. Ice crystals chime against one another. Voices are muffled. Words freeze in the air and fall to the ground, jokes Peter. But there is a grain of truth in it. Sound travels differently in dense, cold air. We walk to the shed where the snowmobile is kept. The shed is unheated. Inside it is the same temperature as outside. The snowmobile is covered with a tarpaulin to protect it from snow. Thomas pulls off the tarpaulin, opens the hood, checks the oil level. The oil is special, Arctic grade, and does not freeze down to -70. Ordinary automotive oil at -40 turns into a thick paste, and the engine will not start. The snowmobile starts with difficulty. The battery loses 80% of its power in the cold. The starter turns slowly, straining. Thomas tries once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th attempt, the engine catches, begins running unevenly, blowing white steam. It needs to warm up for about 10 minutes, he explains, giving it gas, raising the revolutions. If you ride right away, the engine will seize up from the cold. While the snowmobile warms up, we prepare the sled it will tow. It is wooden, 3 meters long, 1 meter wide, on plastic runners. We load the equipment: traps, ropes, an axe, a shovel, a spare canister of gasoline. The gasoline is also special, aviation grade, and does not freeze. Ordinary automotive gasoline begins to thicken at -40 and may not burn. Finally, we set off. The snowmobile roars, the sled jerks, and begins to glide over the hard crust. Thomas drives. I sit behind on the sled, holding onto a rope. Johnny and Peter run alongside for the first 500 meters, warming up, then jump onto the sled on the move. We head north, into the tundra, where Thomas has set a line of traps for Arctic foxes. The traps are placed in a straight line 10 kilometers long, every 500 meters. 20 traps, each tied to a metal stake driven into the frozen ground. The line needs to be checked every 3 days, otherwise the caught foxes may be eaten by wolverines or ravens. The Arctic fox is a small animal weighing 4 to 5 kilograms with thick white fur in winter. Arctic fox fur is very valuable, Thomas explains as we ride. 1 pelt is worth 3,000 rubles on the market in the city. Over the winter, you can catch about 30, if you are lucky. That is 90,000 rubles, more than 2 months' salary. With that money, we buy ammunition, gasoline, kerosene, flour, sugar, tea, everything we need. We reach the first trap. Thomas stops the snowmobile, dismounts, and goes to check. The trap has been sprung. In it is a dead Arctic fox, snow white, fluffy. It is frozen into the ice. Its body froze solid immediately after death. Thomas chips away the ice with a small hatchet, extracts the fox, and examines it. A good one, he nods. The pelt is intact, undamaged by the trap. It will go for sale. We put the fox into a bag on the sled, reset the trap, and ride on. The next 3 traps are empty. The 4th has been sprung, but the fox is gone. Only a tuft of fur remains. A wolverine took it, says Thomas with annoyance. They can smell blood from kilometers away. They come, tear apart the trap, and take the catch. Nothing you can do. That is nature. By noon, though there is still no sun and the darkness is complete, we have checked all 20 traps. The haul is 4 foxes, a decent result. Thomas is pleased. 12,000 rubles, he says,
placing the last fox in the bag. Enough for a week's supply of kerosene. Now we head to the ocean, onto the ice, to look for seal breathing holes. Seals breathe through openings in the ice that they keep open all winter, scratching the ice with their claws and teeth. A hunter finds such a hole, waits beside it for hours, sometimes an entire day, until a seal surfaces to breathe. Then one precise strike with a harpoon, and the seal is caught. But today is not a day for that kind of hunting, says Thomas, scanning the ice with binoculars. It is too cold, -64. You cannot stand motionless for more than 20 minutes or you will freeze. For hunting at a breathing hole, you need warmer weather, -30 at most.
Today we will simply check where the holes are, memorize the locations, and come back when it warms up. We find 3 fresh breathing holes and mark them with a GPS navigator that Thomas bought in the city with money from selling fox pelts. In the past, locations were memorized by landmarks, by pressure ridges, by the shape of the shore. But GPS is more accurate, especially in darkness and blizzards when you cannot see anything. We return to the settlement by 4 in the afternoon, though the darkness is the same as it was in the morning. During the polar night, the concept of day and night is relative. You live by the clock, not by the light. At home, Anna and Sarah are preparing dinner for the whole family. On the kerosene stove, a large pot of seal meat soup is boiling. The meat is dark, almost black, cooked with potatoes, onions, and carrots. The smell is strong, distinctive, but appetizing after a whole day in the cold. With the soup there is fried fish, Arctic char, caught in summer, bread baked from store-bought flour, butter brought from the city, tea, strong, sweet, by the liter. Everyone eats silently, intently, replenishing calories. In one such dinner, the family consumes about 3 kilograms of meat, half a kilogram of fish, a loaf of bread, and drinks 2 liters of tea. After dinner, Thomas goes into the cold room where the meat is stored. It is essentially a huge freezer without electricity. The temperature there is a steady -20. On the shelves lie cuts of meat, seal, reindeer, fish, all frozen. Thomas inspects the supplies and counts. About 40 kilograms of seal meat remain, enough for 2 weeks. 30 kilograms of reindeer, 10 days. There is plenty of fish, about 100 kilograms, a month's worth. We will need to go hunting again soon, he thinks aloud. In the evening, when the generator starts up and electricity appears, the children do their homework. There is a school in the settlement, a small one with 1 teacher for all grades. But in winter, when the temperature drops below -50, the school does not open. It is too dangerous for the children to walk there. So they study at home, using textbooks and assignments that the teacher passes along through the village elders. Sarah, the eldest, teaches the younger ones to read and write in Inupiaq, the native language of the Inuit. It is important to know the language of our ancestors, says Grandmother Elizabeth, sitting by the stove. Language is culture. It is the connection to the land, to the animals, to the spirits. If we forget the language, we forget who we are. At 9 in the evening, the generator shuts off and the lights go out. Everyone goes to bed early because kerosene lamps are expensive to use. Better to economize. The family lies down together in the one warm room under thick blankets of reindeer fur. The stove hums in the corner, maintaining a temperature of +18. Outside, the frost intensifies. The temperature drops to -68 by midnight. The wind picks up and a blizzard begins. Snow beats against the walls of the house, whistles through the cracks, tries to get inside. But the house holds its warmth. The family is safe. There are food supplies. There is kerosene. One more day has been lived through in the Arctic. One more day of survival in conditions that most people would not endure for even an hour. The morning of the 3rd day begins with alarm.
Thomas wakes to silence. The wrong kind of silence. The stove is not working. There is no familiar hum of the burner. He leaps up, runs to the stove, checks. The kerosene has run out. The burner has gone out. He looks at the clock. 5 in the morning. The stove shut off about an hour ago. The temperature in the room has already dropped to +10 and is falling further at a rate of 5 degrees per hour.
Quickly, without panic, he wakes Johnny. "We need kerosene, now," he says. "The spare canister is in the shed. Run, bring it." Johnny jumps up, dresses hastily, and runs out into the darkness and cold. Meanwhile, Thomas tries to light the second stove, the one that burns blubber. But the blubber has frozen, turned solid, and will not ignite right away. First, you need to melt a small piece, create a flame, then add more. Johnny returns in 10 minutes with a canister of kerosene. His hands are red, frostbitten. He forgot to put on his mittens in his haste. Anna immediately takes his hands and lowers them into a basin of cool water, not hot, to warm them properly. "You must not use hot water," she explains. "It will worsen the tissue damage. You need water at room temperature, gradual warming." Thomas fills the stove and lights the burner. It ignites with a pop. The flame is steady, blue. Heat begins to flow, but the temperature rises slowly. After an hour, the room is at +12. After 2 hours, +15. By 9 in the morning, the normal temperature of +18 has returned. The crisis has passed, but it is a reminder of how fragile the balance between warmth and death is in the Arctic. We need to go for kerosene to the neighboring settlement, Thomas decides. The supply will run out in a day, and the next delivery is not for another week. 40 kilometers across the ice by snowmobile. There and back 80, about 4 hours of travel. Dangerous in such cold, but there is no choice. He prepares for the trip meticulously, as for an expedition. A full tank of gasoline in the snowmobile, a spare canister on the sled, an emergency kit, a sleeping bag, a tent, a camp stove, a 3-day food supply, signal flares, a satellite phone borrowed from the village elder, a GPS navigator with the route marked, spare clothing in a waterproof bag, tools for repairing the snowmobile, wrenches, screwdrivers, electrical tape, wire, a spare track belt. If the snowmobile breaks down in the middle of the journey, 40 kilometers from any dwelling, at -68, I will have 2 hours to make repairs, he explains. After that, hypothermia will set in, even in clothing like this. So you need to have everything for repairs and everything for survival in case the repairs do not work. Johnny goes with him. 2 people are safer than 1. If one is injured or gets frostbite, the other can help. They set off at 10 in the morning, though the darkness is complete, as always. The snowmobile's headlights carve a narrow strip of ice out of the gloom ahead. They ride across the frozen ocean along a route Thomas knows by heart, having traveled it hundreds of times. The ice is 3 meters thick, solid, safe. But you need to watch for cracks, for areas where the ice is thinner because of currents. The GPS shows a safe route plotted along points that have been verified over the years. Speed is 40 kilometers per hour. Not fast, but in such cold you cannot race. The headwind chills you even more. After an hour of travel, the snowmobile begins to run erratically. The engine sputters, losing power. Thomas stops, kills the motor, opens the hood. The problem is in the carburetor. Fuel is feeding unevenly. An ice blockage has formed somewhere. He removes the air filter, checks the jets, blows them out, cleans them with a thin piece of wire. Working in the cold with bare hands is impossible. Fingers freeze in seconds. So he works in thin gloves, quickly, precisely, every movement practiced. Johnny shines the flashlight and shields him from the wind with his body. In 15 minutes, the repair is done. The carburetor is reassembled. The snowmobile starts and runs smoothly.
They ride on. After another hour, a faint light appears ahead. The lights of the neighboring settlement.
They enter the settlement and find the house of the fuel depot owner. Thomas explains the situation and buys 6 canisters of kerosene, 20 liters each, 120 liters, for 8,000 rubles. He also buys gasoline, 20 liters, another 1,500. The canisters are loaded onto the sled and tied down with ropes crisscrossed. The load is heavy, about 150 kilograms, but the sled will hold. They drink a mug of hot tea each in the depot owner's house, warm up for 20 minutes, and set off on the return journey. The way back is harder. The snowmobile is pulling a load, and the speed drops to 30 kilometers per hour. But everything goes smoothly, and they reach home in 2 hours. They carry the canisters into the shed where they will not freeze completely, though the kerosene will thicken. Before use, each canister will need to be warmed in the heated room for an hour or 2. The next day, the temperature rises slightly to -56. A warm spell, Anna rejoices. Maybe it will warm up even more soon, to -40, and then we can send the children to school. They have been sitting at home for 2 weeks already, studying little, mostly playing. Thomas decides to take advantage of the relative warmth to hunt for a seal. -56 is still very cold, but you can stand by a breathing hole for an hour to an hour and a half if you dress properly and keep moving in place. He takes a harpoon, a long shaft with a metal tip and a rope. Also a .22 caliber rifle in case the seal turns out to be far from the hole and he needs to shoot. 3 of them ride together, Thomas, Johnny, and Peter. They find a breathing hole that they marked with GPS several days ago. The hole is round, 40 centimeters in diameter, its edges smooth, polished by the seal's body. The water in the hole is black, calm, descending downward into darkness. The seal is somewhere down there, under the water, hunting for fish. In 20 to 30 minutes, it will surface to breathe. Thomas takes up position 3 meters from the hole, harpoon at the ready. Johnny and Peter move off to the side, hiding behind a pressure ridge so as not to startle the seal. The waiting begins, the hardest part of the hunt. Standing motionless in the cold, not moving, not making noise, just waiting. After 10 minutes, his toes begin to go numb. Thomas shifts from foot to foot, wiggles his toes inside his boots, restoring circulation. After 20 minutes, his hands go numb, even in thick mittens. He tucks his hands under his parka, presses them against his body, warms them. He holds the harpoon with one hand while warming the other. After 35 minutes, the water in the hole begins to stir. A slight ripple, then circles spread from the center. The seal rises from below, slowly, cautiously. Thomas freezes completely, even holds his breath. The seal's head emerges from the water, round, with large black eyes, with whisker vibrissae. The seal looks around, sniffs the air, sees no danger, and pushes itself out further. Thomas waits for the moment when the seal emerges up to its shoulders. Then the harpoon strike will be precise, lethal. 1 second, 2, 3. The seal exhales, inhales, prepares to dive back down. Now, Thomas makes a sharp lunge forward, drives the harpoon into the seal's body just behind the head, into the heart area. The point pierces the hide, sinks in deep. The seal jerks, tries to dive, to drag the harpoon underwater. But Thomas holds the rope firmly, does not let go. The seal pulls. Its weight is about 120 kilograms, its strength enormous. Thomas digs in with his feet, leans back, uses his own body weight as a counterbalance. Johnny and Peter run out from their cover, grab the rope, pull together. Gradually, meter by meter, the seal is hauled onto the ice. It thrashes, tries to break free, but its strength fades. The blood loss is great. After a minute, it goes still, dies. Thomas walks over, checks. Dead, he says. Good catch. A ringed seal, female, about 130 kilograms. About 60 kilograms of meat, 30 of fat, plus the hide and bones. Enough for 2 weeks. The seal is loaded onto the sled, tied down, hauled home. At home, the butchering begins right in the cold room, where it is -20, the ideal temperature for working with meat. It does not spoil. Thomas makes an incision along the belly, removes the hide whole in one piece. The hide will go toward repairing the umiak, the boat they use in summer for whale hunting. The fat is cut off in slabs, 5 to 7 centimeters thick. Some will go for heating, some for food. Anna will dice it into cubes, fermented in a barrel with seawater. In a month, it will become maktak, a traditional dish, a source of all vitamins.
The meat is separated from the bones,
Cut into fist-sized pieces, placed in bags, and frozen. The organs, liver, heart, kidneys, are set aside to be eaten first, as they spoil quickly even in the cold. The bones go for broth and for feeding dogs. Thomas does not have dogs in the settlement, but his neighbor has a team of 8 huskies that he feeds with seal meat and bones. In exchange for the bones, the neighbor will help Thomas repair his roof in the spring. That is how the economy works in the settlement, an exchange of services and goods. After 2 hours, the butchering is finished. The freezer is packed with meat, the fat is stored in containers, the hide is stretched on a frame for drying. The family will have dinner of fresh seal liver, pan-fried with onions, a delicacy full of iron and vitamins.
In the evening, Grandmother Elizabeth tells her grandchildren stories about the old times, when there were no snowmobiles or rifles, when people hunted with dog teams and harpoons made of bone. My father, your great-grandfather, she would say, hunted bear with a spear, one-on-one. He killed 3 bears in his lifetime. The hides were kept in the family as treasures. There are no hunters like that now. Everyone uses rifles from a distance. Courage was different then. But the main thing has not changed, she continues. The main thing is respect for the animal, gratitude for the fact that it gave its life so that we might live. After every hunt, you must thank the spirit of the animal. Ask forgiveness for having had to kill it. Then the animals will come again, will allow themselves to be taken. If you hunt without respect, only for profit, the animals will leave, and we will all starve to death. She teaches the children a traditional prayer in Inupiaq, words of gratitude to the seal for its meat, fat, and hide. The words are ancient, passed down through generations for thousands of years. Louisa, the youngest, repeats after her grandmother, memorizing the words, the intonation. This is our heritage, says Elizabeth. The language, the prayers, the ways of hunting, the respect for nature. As long as we remember this, we remain Inuit. We remain a people. If we forget, we will turn into city dwellers, lost, not knowing who we are. The next morning, the temperature drops again to -62. The blizzard intensifies, wind up to 20 meters per second, visibility 0. Weather like this can last a week, Thomas explains. You cannot go anywhere. Even reaching the shed is dangerous. You can get lost 5 meters from the house. So we simply sit, wait, conserve kerosene, eat our stores. The family spends the days in the warm room, all together. The children play traditional games. Ayak, a game with a ball made of sealskin. They toss it, catch it, count points. The women sew clothing, mend torn parkas, embroider traditional patterns with beads on kamiks. Thomas repairs equipment, sharpens knives, braids ropes from seal sinew. This is also part of life in the Arctic, he says. It is not always hunting and action. Sometimes you simply wait, ride out the storm, sit in warmth and safety while nature rages outside. Patience is the most important quality of a hunter. The hasty one will freeze. The hungry one will take a risk and perish. The patient one will wait it out, will wait for his moment, will survive. The storm lasts 5 days. For 5 days, the family does not leave the house, except for short forays to the shed for kerosene and firewood. By the end of the 5th day, the food supplies have noticeably dwindled. The kerosene is running low. But the blizzard dies down. The wind drops. The temperature rises to -48.
We can go out, says Thomas, looking through the window, where for the first time in 5 days, something other than a white veil is visible. We need to check the traps. There are surely Arctic foxes. We need to find a seal breathing hole, get more meat. We need to keep living. They dress, step out into the frosty morning. The air is clean, transparent after the blizzard, the stars bright in the black sky. The northern lights dance to the north, green and pink ribbons swaying in the heights. Beautiful, Peter whispers, looking up. Yes, Thomas agrees. A harsh land, but beautiful. Our land, the land of our ancestors. A land that teaches you to survive, teaches you to be strong, teaches you to respect nature. They get on the snowmobile, ride out into the tundra toward the traps. Life goes on. The hunt goes on. Survival goes on. At -64 in the polar night on the edge of the inhabited world. But this is their world, their home, their life, and they know how to live it because their fathers taught them, and their grandfathers taught their fathers, and so on for 4,000 years. An unbroken chain of knowledge passed from generation to generation. The modern world is changing fast, says Thomas as they ride. Global warming is changing the ice, changing the migration of animals. Young people leave for the cities, look for work, forget the traditions. Perhaps in a generation or two there will be no one left who knows how to hunt the old way, who knows the language, who remembers the prayers. But as long as we are here, we will live as our ancestors lived, he continues. We will hunt. We will teach our children. We will preserve the traditions. Because this is not simply a way to obtain food. It is our identity, our essence, what makes us Inuit. And as long as even one person remembers how to survive in the Arctic at -64, our people are alive. Our culture is alive. Our bond with this harsh, beautiful land is unbroken. The snowmobile disappears into the darkness of the tundra, the red glow of its taillight blinking and fading in the distance. Overhead, the northern lights continue their endless dance. The cold wind whistles across the ice. The temperature holds at -64. The Arctic does not forgive mistakes, does not give second chances, knows no mercy. But for those who know its laws, who respect its power, who live in harmony with it, it becomes a home. Harsh, cold, demanding, but a home.